Hi, my name is Runar. I want to show you how easy it is to create a Slackbot in Unison and to deploy it to Unison Cloud. Go to api.slack.com/apps, click Create New App, and give it a name. I have given mine the name CoffeeBot, and that takes us to this basic information page. Go to OAuth and permissions, scroll down, and add some scopes. We want our bot to be able to write reactions and join channels. And once we have our bot token scopes, we want to install the app into our workspace, allow. And now we have this token here that we can copy. Now, don't worry, I'm going to throw this token away as soon as we're done with recording this video. So it's not going to actually work after that. To create our actual bot, I've opened UCM, the Unison Codebase Manager, in an empty directory that I'm just calling U, and I've opened a scratch.u file in that directory in VS Code. You can obviously use whatever text editor you want. And I'm going to start by typing in here, project.create CoffeeBot. It's going to go download the Unison base library. And the next thing to do is to install the Slack API. So we go to Unison share, share.unisonlength.org, and there is a library here called Slack. Now, what we're going to do in this video is to write and deploy the CoffeeBot example from this README. And then I'm going to show you a more advanced Slackbot. We want to go to use project, copy these instructions as a dependency, paste that into UCM, and it's going to download the library for me. Now that that's done, in my CoffeeBot project, I'll have this lib namespace. And under that namespace, I will have base and then the Slack API. Now what we want to do is configure our Slackbot. Now we never want to actually put our token and our secrets in our code base. So I'm going to create a cloud environment.create, and that's going to contain a secret named Slack token and a secret named Slack.secretKey. What we have to do is just put those in here. Let me go to the Slack API, grab our token, put that in there. We also need this secret signing key, which I'm going to get from the admin console. Go to basic information, and there is a signing secret. Show that. Don't worry, I'm going to discard this as soon as we're done with this video. All right, there's that. So we're going to create an environment called CoffeeBot that contains these two secrets. Save this file. Now, if we go over to UCM, you'll see that UCM has picked up this config value. And now if I run this config value, it has now created this environment called CoffeeBot for me. And now I can actually just go and delete this from my Scratch file so I don't accidentally commit it. And that environment is now in Unison Cloud. And we can access it again using that name CoffeeBot. Then it's time to write our code for the CoffeeBot. And here's the code for the bot. CoffeeBot is a Unison expression with this type here. So it doesn't return a value, it returns this unit, but it needs the abilities to use the Slack Events API, throw exceptions, do cloud logging, and use the Slack Web API. And here's what it does. It grabs any incoming message, checks if the message text contains the word coffee, and if so, react to the message with a coffee emoji, otherwise skip the event. Pretty straightforward. If I save this file, it gets compiled. I can add that to my code base. So now it's in there called CoffeeBot. It's also in the actual library as an example, but we're still going to add it. To deploy our CoffeeBot to Unison Cloud, I write this expression that I'm calling CoffeeBot.deploy, and it calls cloud main because it wants to run on Unison Cloud. And I call environment.create, which is idempotent. So this will actually read the environment we created earlier, call that env. And then I call deploy HTTP, which is part of Unison Cloud, which deploys an HTTP endpoint that contains our service, pass it the environment we created, and a call to this runBot function, which is a part of the Slack API. Now, runBot takes the name of the Slack token key in the environment and the name of the configuration key that contains the Slack signing secret and our CoffeeBot. And that gives us a hash for the service. Now I want to create a human readable name for the service. I'm going to call that CoffeeBot, and this will serve as a stable name for the service. And then I want to assign that name to the hash that I just created. Save this file. Now it says CoffeeBot.deploy. It's okay to add. I will add that, and then I will run CoffeeBot.deploy. So now our Slackbot is running at this URL, and we can access it using this stable URL here. And now we just need to tell Slack where to find our bot. So back to the Slack web console, go to event subscriptions, enable events, paste the URL in here, and that should verify that it actually works. And now we want to subscribe to some events. The event that we want to subscribe to is message.channels. A message was posted to a channel. Don't forget to click Save Changes and reinstall the app. Success. So now we should be able to invite our bot to our Slack channels. Just invited to our general chat here, coffee bot, add. So now if I say, who likes coffee? Coffee bot replies with an emoji. So it's that easy. So coffee bot is now interacting with our Slack. It's deployed on managed infrastructure on Unison Cloud. It'll scale up and down as needed. Now to recap what we did, we created the app in the Slack admin console. We wrote the code for our Slackbot. We created a configuration value in Unison code. We ran that configuration to store our API key and signing secret in a secure vault. We wrote a deployment for our app in Unison code, and we ran that deployment, and we're done. And obviously, CoffeeBot is a very simple example, but it shows how easy it is to deploy a service in Unison Cloud that does something interesting. Now, I just want to show you another bot that I wrote that does something a little bit more. So if you go to Unison Share and you search for GPT bot, here is a ChatGPT Slackbot. So this is a Slackbot that you can invite into your Slack, which will allow you to chat with ChatGPT by either mentioning it or adding a robot face emoji to any message in a channel. The meat of the bot is here. This code is a little bit more involved than CoffeeBot. The type is a little more complicated. It takes 2 arguments. It takes a Slack session, which is a part of the Slack API. It takes this completer thing, and different implementations of completer will either call out to OpenAI or Perplexity AI. And otherwise, it has the same type as CoffeeBot, returns unit, and it needs to be able to call Slack events, throw exceptions. It needs to be able to start remote processes because it's asynchronous, and it needs to be able to log. So here's the code that handles the reactions. So if somebody writes a message with the robot face emoji, then we grab the channel ID and the timestamp of the message. If somebody mentions our app, which we grab with app mention, which is part of the Slack API, then we have 2 cases. Either it is a threaded message or a non-threaded message. In either case, we grab the timestamp and the channel ID. We use slackevents.or to combine both of these handlers. And then this detached pool thing is a Unison Cloud call, which starts a remote asynchronous process. And so it asynchronously calls this function, complete Slack thread with reply, which calls out to OpenAI. Now, this is doing more involved stuff with Slack. Like, for instance, it is grabbing all the replies to a thread here. This is just to give GPT the full context of what has been said. So we grab all the replies, filter out disallowed characters, and then we construct a message to ChatGPT. There's a system message, which you can customize, and then it grabs the GPT response by calling out to ChatGPT. And this ChatGPT function takes a list of ChatGPT messages. Anyway, long story short, this is not a whole lot of code. And the way to deploy this is very similar to what we did with CoffeeBot. We create a config, we give it all of these permissions, we install it to the workspace, deploy our bot, and then we subscribe to events. To app mention and reaction added. Now, I've already created this GPT bot here in my Slack admin console. So I can just go over to UCM and clone this example project, GPT bot. So now I've run the configuration for my bot. And I'm not going to show you the configuration value because it contains my OpenAI API key. And now if I just say run GPT bot.deploy, I should deploy GPT bot. And it should be running here. I go and paste that into my events URL for the GPT bot. And then I think I just need to install it. And now I should be able to go to Slack. I see GPT bot is here. I can go over to GPT bot, hover over its handle, and I should be able to add this app to a channel, general. And so now I should be able to chat with GPT bot. Let's try it. And I'll ask it, tell me a joke that's both about AI and a polar bear. And ChatGPT replies with a terrible joke. So I hope that gives you some taste of what it's like to develop Slackbots in Unison and to deploy them to Unison Cloud. Have fun.